I need you to imagine yourself in this scenario. You wake up from a horrible accident that nearly left you for dead. The accident was so gruesome that you not only lost all your hair, but you end up with scars that are going to be with you for the rest of your life. Somehow though, this is not even the worst part of the accident. We go back a day or two in this timeline. You're in the lead of a drag race. As you turn the corner, you run into something and realize you stumbled upon a man-eater. You warn the other racers behind you to head back and let everyone know that you spotted a man-eater. As soon as you leave, you hear the sounds of the man-eater chewing. Almost immediately, you realize someone is being eaten alive. The man-eater turns towards you, and you get to see the body it's about to swallow. You see a shocking sight you never expected to see in a million years. Your brother being eaten alive by a man-eater. You rush for the rope, never managing to free him. You look down on your brother, and only his torso is still intact. You immediately break into tears and start begging for help, but no one comes. You hear your brother's last words as he tells you, "You're so close, sis, but you sound so far." We go forward to when you wake up on the operating table. As you walk down the ward, you try and find somebody. You find some doctors, and as you approach them, there's a mirror beside you. For a second time in a 48-hour span, you see a sight that shatters your perception of what's real or not. The difference is, you see something that's entirely also familiar. You see yourself. Only that's not you. You start breaking down and ask, "Where is my sister?" As you scream for her to come. The stress eventually makes you collapse and you pass out.
Now, contrary to the intro you just watched, Heavily Delusion isn't a horror anime at all. If anything, it's more of like a dystopian anime. It shares similar elements with anime like Promised Neverland, Made in Abyss, or Ghost in the Shell. That being said, I actually didn't want to make this video at all. Like, I struggled making this video. And it's because of one reason. Heavily Delusion is weird. I'm not weird like the Dan weird or JoJo weird. Like, weird. This show can be pretty distasteful at times, and I'm not really sure why. Cause most of the distasteful stuff can entirely be avoided. Like, it's just there for no reason really. I'm gonna give an example. In the second episode of the show, one of the characters gets nudes of another character. Notice I said of, not from, which is just like, wow, like, it's just even worse than you'd imagine. Like I said, that's pretty weird and not cool. But it even gets more weird, because most of the characters in Heavenly Delusion are kids. Like, most of them are like 16 or younger. So it's like, okay, this is dangerously, close territories of what y'all are trying to push. So it's like, why? And what makes it even worse in the first place is that the story tries to use this as a bonding tool between these two characters. Oh, he tells her that he got this, and they try to resolve it. They try to use it as like something to make a relationship out of and bond over. And it's like, why? There's like a million other ways to try and do something like that. And what makes it more baffling is that we actually see that in the show with two other characters. Like, they do a relationship between two characters, like forming, bonding, everything. They do it perfectly normal for the most part. And I'm like, so like, why couldn't y'all do that for these other two characters normally? I don't know, like, it's just like, why? Another thing is the humor. Like I said, most of the cast of this show are kids, and the show tries to do sexual humor, the type of stuff you see with Sanji or Mr. Roshi. I'm not trying to really, see that type of humor with kids. I'm sure you could kind of do something else. I don't know, it's like kind of like trying to do that type of humor with Pokemon. Nah, like, it's just weird. It's weird. I don't know why. Like, it's there and it shouldn't be there, but it's there. And I don't know why. There are other moments that are also just off-putting, but this isn't going to be that type of video. Like, I'm not going to list everything out and point out, oh, like, it's not a bashing type of video. I'm just highlighting all of this stuff so that you know what you're getting into if you're actually going to watch this show. It's a disclaimer that, yeah, this type of stuff is in this show, so yeah, watch at your own risk. But I decided to make this video because I feel even with all of that, it doesn't really play like a huge role in the story. And I feel like the story of Heavily Delusion is a very amazing story that deserves to have like a thorough analysis. And yeah, that's what this video is about. So with all that being said, let's get into the meat and potatoes. The story of Heavenly Delusion takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where an event called the Great Disaster happened. The Great Disaster occurred around 15 to 7 years before the present timeline of the story. There are many theories as to what the Great Disaster possibly could have been, with some characters in the story suggesting it could have been a war, an alien invasion, or an asteroid hitting the Earth. All of these scenarios seem pretty unlikely though. What I believe happened is that a massive solar superstorm hit the Earth. That seems like the most plausible outcome. I go with this because something similar in real life happened to this. The Carrington event in 1859, a superstorm that kind of just wiped out all technology. The only thing though is that back then they were in like planes, electronics, and all types of shit like that. So it didn't really affect anybody, but yeah, it happened in the world of Heavenly Delusion. So all technology got nuked and wiped out. I think this is the most likely case because the fallout from an asteroid seems way more earth-ending. The type of fallout you expect from an asteroid really isn't seen in the world of Heavenly Delusion. It seems a bit less, a bit tame or chill, if I had to say. We still see communities thriving, advanced and regular technologies being used, and pockets of towns here and there. So yeah, things have definitely picked back up in the world of Heavenly Delusion. My guess is that the effects of the storm wore off and most of the technology that was rendered useless actually became viable again, and yeah, people just went back to their normal lives or some sort of normalcy. Because the world of Heavenly Delusion doesn't seem oldie post-apocalyptic like something from Mad Max. It's tame, it's pretty chill if you watch the show, you know what I mean. But this is just my speculation. I'm actually curious to know what the actual lore reveal is. And if you know, yeah, just don't be like, oh, you're wrong, it's this. Like, this is my speculation. I've only watched the anime, I haven't read the manga. In the world of Heavenly Delusion, we get to experience the world through the perspective of two characters, Maru and Kiruko. Maru is a 15-year-old boy that was born around the time the Great Disaster happened. Maru's main goal is to find a place called Heaven. Well, not literally heaven, but a place in Japan called Heaven. The main problem for Maru though is that he doesn't really know how to navigate Japan and find Heaven in the first place. This led to him getting a bodyguard that will not only protect him, but help him find Heaven. That bodyguard is Kuriko. More on her later. On their journey, they get ambushed by some bandits, but they're able to take them out pretty easily. Something worth noting in this incident is that Kiriko used a gun. This gun is kind of like a laser beam from Star Wars or some shit like that. It's like pretty high tech and advanced. The gun also has a symbol on it, and because the gun is like pretty advanced technology, finding out who made the gun probably could lead to finding out where Heaven is. So yeah, like that symbol, note it, it's important. After this, Maru and Kiriko run into a lady that has a house, like a full-on house, generator, everything. Like she's living pretty good. The lady is kind enough to host both of them for the night. She seems nice enough as she even answers some questions Kiriko asked her. Kiriko shows her a picture and asks if she's seen these two people as she's searching for them. Unfortunately though, the lady doesn't recognize any of the two people in the picture. Kiriko and Maru ease in eventually occur the night, as it's been a while since they've had a bed to sleep on, a decent meal, and a hot shower. All those type of luxuries, they're not really commonplace, so yeah, hey, you gotta take advantage when you get any of them, let alone all of them. Later in the night though, Kiriko wakes up as she notices something stalking her outside the window. She tries to wake Maru up, but he doesn't really wake up. Eventually he does, and they realize they were both drugged. The lady drugged both of them, and they're wondering like why. They go outside to try and figure out what's happening, and they run to the lady. She does confirm that yeah, she did drug them, but she did it because she didn't want either of them to run into the man-eater when he arrived. The man-eater is going ballistic and trying to attack everybody. Eventually Maru and Kiriko are able to handle the man-eater and corner it down, but before they're able to kill it, the lady stops them and begs them not to kill the man-eater. She pleads to them that the man-eater is actually her son and they shouldn't kill it. She argues that after the man-eater ate her son, the man-eater has been protecting her from hoodlums, bandits, and all sorts of criminals that come to her house. Kiriko and Maru initially disagree, but they later accept her pleas and decide to leave. But just as they're about to leave, the man-eater kills the lady, like just out of nowhere. And yeah, he ate her, so yeah, I don't think he was protecting her at all. Because of this, Maru decides to kill the man-eater, which is exactly what happens. He kills the man-eater. If you're wondering how he does this, Maru has an ability that allows him to go inside of the man-eater and kill them with a touch. Basically, like, he touches the cells of the man-eater and just like destroys it from the inside out. It's just pretty cool. Like, he has a nice visual effect. The next day, as they're about to leave, Maru and Kiriko have a conversation about what was actually happening. Was the man-eater using the lady to lure people in to eat them, or was the lady lady bringing people for the man-eater to eat because she thought the man-eater was her son. I believe there's a moment of the show that allows the viewers to ponder, what's actually happening. And the show has like a decent chunk of this. It's kind of like, what's the morality of this situation that has actually happened? It's not really just black and white. There's a gray area there to kind of like explore what's going on. Like I said earlier, I believe the old lady was feeding people to the man-eater because she thought the man-eater was her son. I know she still loved her son, and yeah, obviously she wanted to take care of her son. So that's just my thoughts. But yeah, let me know what you think was actually going on. And yeah, the elephant in the room, man-eaters. Man-eaters ain't like zombies. There ain't like a ton of them everywhere. If anything, I'd say they're like bloaters from the Last of Us series. It's like scattered here and there. There are not a lot of them, but if you run into one of them, yeah, you're gonna have a really fucking bad day. Another thing is that man-eaters actually have another name, Hiruko. Although it's only Maru that calls them that, but yeah, it's worth a note. The other name for man-eaters are Hiruko. Going back to the story, Maru and Kiruko are able to find a huge community that's thriving. Because of this, Kiruko and Maru believe this is heaven. Mostly because they haven't run to a town that has all of the residents living a normal life in this post-apocalyptic Japan. And while this town definitely stands out, there's actually nothing to indicate that this is heaven. One key indicator is that no one in the town is able to recognize Maru or who exactly he is. More on that in a bit. Also, the residents of the town have no idea where heaven or what heaven is when Maru and Kiruko ask them about it. While all of this is going on, one of the people in the town actually stopped by Maru and Kiruko and asked Kiruko if she's the famous go-kart electric driver Haruki Takemaru, and she says no, that she's not her at all. But he insists. He actually even pulls out a picture and is like, oh yeah, are you her? But the only difference is that Haruki actually has jet black hair and Kiruko has red hair. So it might be her, but it's not her for the time being, that ain't her. The guy insists and is like, oh yeah, you look like her and whatever. The conversation eventually gets awkward and he leaves. Even Maru at this point is like, oh yeah, like what the hell was that? Like what's going on? But she shuts everything down and is like, yeah, we're not gonna talk about that. Well, not me though. You see, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. Flashback time. You remember the intro in the video? Well, yeah, let's find out the full details about what actually happened with that incident. Kiriko was a go-kart racer, and she had a younger brother called Haruki. They both lived in an orphanage, and the person that was in charge of that orphanage is called Robin Inozaki. If you didn't know this is one of the people that Kiriko was asking the lady in the cottage if she's seen him before. She also asked about another person, and he makes an appearance in the flashback too, and that's Dr. He just goes by Doc though. These are the two people that Kiriko has been looking for in the present day. The events that follow is what I covered in the intro of the video, so I'm not going to go over that again. The aftermath of the events is very weird though. Because you see, while this person is Kiriko physically, mentally, they're actually Haruki. This surprises damn near everyone. And the doctors that saved Kiriko believes that the stress from the accidents impacted her so much that she actually thinks she's Haruki now. I mean, yeah, that could be it, but I don't really think that's the case though. And that's because both of them were rushed to the hospital in the first place. Kiriko and Haruki were on the verge of death when we saw them in the hospital. And that shouldn't really be the case. If you go back to when Kiriko helped save Haruki from the man-eater, Kiriko was perfectly fine. Nothing happened to her, like the man-eater didn't eat her. So it's kind of weird that she was rushed into the hospital with like major injuries. Like, where'd that come from? I think it's pretty obvious. Man-eater probably came back and, tried to eat her and she got injured there. So yeah, I think that's the only explanation for that in the first place. But that also leaves the other question. Who helped save them? Who took them from that spot to the hospital when both of them were critically injured? I mean, it couldn't have been Kiriko. So yeah, we don't actually really know who did that. There's just a whole lot of mystery about the situation. How did Haruki's mind enter Kiriko's body? Like, did the doctors swap their brains? That could actually be a possibility. They could just be lying. And this is actually one of the biggest mysteries of Heavenly Delusion. We gotta find out what happened. I wanna know what happened. But after all of this, like 4 months after I think all these incidents, Kiriko eventually decided to leave his town to try and find Robin and Doc, because that's the only way he'll be able to get answers about like how everything is happening as it is right now. As time went by though, Kiriko decided to become a bodyguard, and that's how she actually met Maru in the first place. Kiriko met Maru because of a lady named Mikura. Mikura entrusted Kiriko to help protect Maru, and she was actually the one that gave Kiriko her blaster that we see her use in the series. Just in case you were wondering how Kiriko ever got that blaster in the first place, Kiriko wasn't the only one Mikura left something with. She left a syringe with Maru, which he's supposed to inject into the person that looks like him when he eventually reaches heaven. As a matter of fact, this is actually the main goal of Maru. Inject this syringe into whoever looks like him when he reaches heaven. Okay, that might seem like a lot because it actually is, but let me summarize all of it. Kiriko's main goal is to find Robin Izanagi and Doc because she's actually Haruki, Kiriko's little brother. He's in the mind of his older sister's body, and he needs answers as to why that happened in the first place. Maru's goal is to reach a place called heaven. How he will know he's in heaven is seeing a person that looks exactly like him. Once he sees the person, he's supposed to inject them with a syringe. This is the main goal of our two characters in Heavenly Delusion. This is also why they know the town they're in isn't heaven, because no one in the town recognizes Maru. There's no Maru look-alike here. Maru and Kiriko's goals don't necessarily align, but because both of their goals are so vague and tough, A, finding two random people, and B, finding a random town in post-apocalyptic Japan, they essentially go back and forth with trying to solve both goals and don't solely focus on either one as the story progresses. So far in the story, both of them actually haven't found any leads to help find heaven. That's until they notice a cargo box that has the same logo as Kiriko's gun. For Kiriko and Maru, this is the best lead they've found to this point. So, Kiriko and Maru decide to take a boat and head back to Tokyo, as it's probably they might find something more concrete there. Also, somebody told them that there's a building that has the same logo as the one on the box they saw, so yeah, they definitely have to go to Tokyo and find out what that is about. On the way back though, Maru confesses his love for Kiriko, which just kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, huh? He tried to kiss her, but Kiriko obviously isn't interested and she shrugs him off. She tells him like her whole backstory and he realizes that, oh, she's actually a guy. And they're like, okay, kind of makes sense how we relate a lot. But so when Maru actually finds out that Kiriko is a guy, like he stops being interested and they establish a platonic relationship going forward. While this is happening though, they actually get attacked by a man-eater on the ship, but they are pretty easily able to handle this man-eater, as this one isn't as dangerous as the other one they saw before. They land in Tokyo and they head to the building that has the same logo as the one on the box, but apparently it's a different logo, and yeah, they're stuck again. Another fucking dead end. There's like nothing for them to do. This is the perfect time to segue this video. In Heavenly Delusion, two stories are actually being told to us viewers. We just don't follow Maru and Kiriko. I held off mentioning anything about this so that the whole story won't feel confusing or convoluted. The second story follows Tokyo, and as you might have noticed, Tokyo is the look-alike that Maru has been looking for this entire time. Tokyo lives in a facility with other children, and as you might have guessed it, this facility is heaven. Yep, the same heaven that Maru and Kiriko have been looking for this entire time. If I had to describe this pseudo-heaven, it's kind of similar to the orphanage from the Promised Neverland, in the sense that the kids are forbidden from leaving and any question about the outside world are quickly dismissed by the staff. There are also some key differences here and there, but I'll get into that later. Like in the Promised Neverland, there was a catalyst that forced the kids to question where they were and what is really going on. The Emma in this scenario was Tokyo. You see, Tokyo got a message that asked her if she would like to go to the outside of the outside while taking a test. Now you're probably wondering, what makes Tokyo and the other kids so special in the first place? Like, why are all of them in this place called heaven to begin with? Well, it's because all of these kids have powers. They've been genetically modified to be superhuman. There's this kid called Mimihime. She has premonition, meaning she sees visions of the past and future. These visions can come in the form of dreams or for the most part visions. There's this other kid, Kuna. He has illustrative foresight. He can seemingly draw events of the future. Lastly, we have Shiro, a hardware genius who is extremely proficient in the use of electronic and mechanical devices. All of these kids are genetically engineered. That's why they have these powers. The people that are responsible for this, like Heaven genetically modifying the kids, they're doing this because they want humanity to ascend, I guess, like reach a next point of evolution. I don't know what the fuck that means, but yeah, that's their goal. They claim they're doing this because they want humanity to advance past the great disaster. The facility the kids are at is mostly run by this person called Shino. No, not that Shino. This Shino. Because of the message Tokyo got, she becomes very curious about what heaven actually is and if there is an outside of the outside. She wants to know, like, possibly there's more to the walls I'm confined in, that there has to be more than I'm seeing right now. All this curiosity and speculation is further intensified when Mimihime tells her that, oh yeah, 2 people are gonna come save you and one of them is gonna look exactly like you. So at this point, Tokyo is like, okay, what the fuck? Like, y'all just teasing me now. Like, I gotta know what's going on. On a lesson note, Shino, the head of heaven, she keeps on telling Tokyo that, oh, Tokyo, you're in heaven and the outside world is hell. So yeah, don't think about the outside world at all. Like, you don't want that. Obviously, duh, someone's telling you to do something and you're a kid, so you want to do it, obviously. So Tokyo, at this point, she's like, I gotta find out what the hell is going on. Eventually, all this blue balling gets to Tokyo. With the help of one of the other children, Kuku, Tokyo and Kuku actually sneak into one of the vents and try to get out of heaven, but they end up in a lab, and in that lab they see something really weird. They find some babies, but these babies are not human at all. It's very clear that they're like genetically modified. Like, they don't look human at all. While exploring the lab though, they mistakenly trigger an alarm. Both manage to get back in the vent and sneak out though before anybody figure out what's going on. Just before they leave though, one of the babies calls out Tokyo. Like, he actually calls Tokyo by her name, which is like, what the fuck? Because A, this baby doesn't even have a face, so how is he communicating to Tokyo in the first place? Probably like some telepathy type of shit, but yeah. And B, how does the baby even know Tokyo in the first place? Or who Tokyo is? It's just like a whole lot going on. Like, there's a whole mystery here that we gotta get to. After all of this, Tokyo is left fucking confused, just like I am when I was watching this. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's really getting to a point where everything is too complicated for her. It doesn't help that one of her closest friends, Taro, is dying from an illness. Taro also keeps on persuading Tokyo to leave and get out of heaven. He insists that heaven is very dangerous and she has to leave. At this point, everything's just a whole lot and Tokyo doesn't even know how to handle how fast everything is going, or who she could even tell all this weird shit that's going on to. All of this kind of forces her to confide in Kona, one of the other kids that's slightly older than Tokyo and the other kids. Another reason why she chooses to tell him everything is because she actually really likes him for the most part, so she feels like he's the only person she can really trust. After telling him about everything that's going on, things slow down for the time being. This wouldn't last though, as Taro will eventually succumb to his illness and pass away. This isn't really a shock, but Shino and the other doctors are kind of worried because they think his illness might be contagious and it might spread to the other kids, and the other kids might actually get ill and start dying too, which is like bad for business. Taro's death makes everyone reminisce about another student that passed away some time ago. To be fair, it's mostly Kona for the most part and Shino talking about that previous student. That student was Asura. It's stated that she was born with a body that could not handle her powerful mind, as she looks like an alien for the most part. Which, if you aren't really paying attention, confirms the suspicion that all of the kids in the facility are genetically modified. Another thing that's pretty unsettling is that Asura actually killed herself. It said that after she found a reason for being alive, she decided to kill herself. So yeah, just wild. Like, damn, that's pretty dark, I ain't gonna lie. There's something really sinister going here, and yeah, it all revolves around Shiro. Like, something is going on here. We then find out that Shiro basically has to answer to a group of shareholders that seemingly fund heaven. She has to keep them informed with what's going on with the kids at all times, and that's where this huge bombshell of a news comes out. Tokyo is pregnant. Yeah, what the fuck did that come from? Like, that came out of nowhere. But it turns out that Tokyo and Kona had a moment or two, and yeah, she got pregnant. I still don't know, but yeah, Tokyo's pregnant. Tokyo being pregnant puts Shino and the others in a tough spot, as this is something they've actually never really dealt with before. Because of this and Taro's illness that made him pass away, they kind of just enact stricter rules. They want to get everything back to normal because they want to bring in more kids into heaven, and they're like, things are kind of spiraling out of control for now. Like, things have to kind of stabilize, so they just put stricter rules to make everything stabilize and get back to normal. They're mostly just really worried that Taro's illness is contagious and it will affect the other kids and they'll just start dying. Some time passes by and Tokyo delivers her kid. Okay, well, her kids. She actually had twins, you see. Most of the doctors are ecstatic for Tokyo. They're actually pretty happy for her. Well, not her, but they're happy, I guess. Shino in particular, she wants to actually experiment on one of the kids. You see, the reason why is because she wants to transfer her consciousness to the kid and keep on living basically infinitely. I think the old hag is in her 80s or some shit. This can't happen though, as the kid needs to be at least 18 for this procedure to happen. The good thing though is that Shino doesn't actually know Tokyo had twins. She only thinks Tokyo had one kid. One of the doctors hid that fact from her because they want to keep one of the other kids. They also have their ulterior motives too, as they plan to give Tokyo only one of her twins and do experiments on the other. The reason is because all of the kids in the facility are actually conceived from this AI robot called Mina, and Tokyo's kids are like the first kids in the facility to be naturally conceived. One thing I've noticed that Kona is actually bedridden while all of this is happening. We're not really sure why, but it has something to do with Tokyo. Speaking of AI, that robot Mina, she's definitely been on some sneaky vibes from the very first episode. It's not really mentioned why, but Mina gathered all of the kids and she was like, oh yeah, y'all are gonna do a test, like a test is gonna be conducted. Mina told the children that the goal of the test they're about to conduct is go to the outside of the outside. Things come full circle here as we're finally able to find out who sent Tokyo the message in the very first episode. Just like Tokyo, none of the other children actually get what it means when it's like go to the outside of the outside, so they're just as confused as Tokyo was in the first episode. Some time passes by and heaven actually ends up exploding. Like everything just goes into full chaos and carnage mode. In the midst of all of this, one of the doctors actually hurries to try and give Tokyo one of her kids. Obviously though, he keeps the other twin because they want to do experiments with that one. This ends up being the first time Tokyo sees her kid, and it's actually a very beautiful moment. It ends up being ruined by Shino though, as she obviously wants the kid for herself and tries to take Tokyo's baby away from her. She really isn't able to do this as she's just an old frail lady, so she asks Mina to do it for her. Mina almost succeeds in doing so. Just as she's about to take the kid, Tokyo suddenly uses her own powers for the very first time and kind of explodes. And yeah, they're just kind of left to wonder what exactly happened. As for the other kids, some of them venture out to heaven. Mimihime, Shiro, Taka, and Anzu in particular are the ones we see living. Mimihime and Shiro get separated from the other two though. The two have a moment and Shiro confesses his feelings to Mimihime and tells her that he loves her. Mimihime removes one of her buttons from her uniform and the two embrace. Heaven is no more and the kids are free. They finally have free will from the created lives they've been living up until this point. If you're still watching this video to this point, thanks fam, appreciate it. It helps the algorithm and you definitely want to subscribe. I got another banger video coming later this week and you definitely don't want to miss out that one. So yeah, let's get back into the video. Mara and Kiruka are fresh out of Leeds and they're not really sure what to do or where to go at this point. They end up going to a nearby town to try and find some leads, but honestly, nothing really comes up. Maru gets into a fight. He was getting jumped, but he actually jumped the crew that tried to jump him. I'm like, bro, wait, ain't this dude a 15-year-old? How is he beating like grown-ass men? So I think Maru has some powers. And he obviously can kill man-eaters too, so he definitely kind of is enhanced. Although, when Maru was getting jumped, he actually got one of his teeth knocked out, so yeah, he ain't super human. During this period where Maru and Kiruka are trying to find leads, they actually do end up getting closer. And not like in a relationship type of way, just, you know, like in a friendship type of way. They learn to understand and care about each other more, if I had to put it in terms, yeah. Basically that. Mara and Kiruka eventually find the lead they've been looking for. It ends up coming in the form of a guy that wants to hire Mara and Kiruka as bodyguards. He was in the same ship with them when they got attacked by a man-eater. The way they were able to kill the man-eater convinced him to get their services. He asked them to take him to the model order. He wants to go there because he's heard there's a doctor that can cure any disease. This made Kiruka interested as she believes this could be the same doctor she's been looking for all this time. Kiruka and Mara are convinced this is worth exploring and decides to head over there to where their model order could be. Both of them get to the location where their model order could be, but instead they are greeted by another group called Live Human. This group is essentially opposed to the model order and they claim the leader gets members and experiments on them to try and create monsters. The leader of Live Human claims she was able to escape, but she lost her leg in the process. They claim that they're going to storm the base that their model order are and put a stop to everything they're doing, as they believe their model order is trying to ruin the world and, you know, fuck it up, I guess. Mara and Kiriko decide that while the Leave Human guys are storming from up top, they'll actually sneak into the basement to try and find the doctor that's the head of the organization. While exploring through the basement, they spot a man-eater. This one seems docile compared to the other ones they've seen though. This is most likely because the man-eater hasn't been able to eat anyone in a long time. All of a sudden though, they both start to get ambushed by other small man-eaters out of nowhere. This overwhelms Mara and Kiriko, and one of the man-eaters actually succeeds in cutting off Kiriko's arms. Or so it seems. Turns out this was a hallucination and they were freaking out. There were never any smaller man-eaters to begin with. Maru is a fiend though, and he's on demon time because he kissed Kiriko to try and get her out of a hallucination. And I'm like, nigga, I know what you're doing. Like, you could have like done something else. You ain't gotta kiss her. And I'm like, bruh, he still low-key likes her, but he just, he ain't gonna act crazy. But yeah, he low-key on demon time. He took the opportunity, and I guess Maru ends up killing the big man-eater as like it's still docile and it can't really do anything by itself aside from the hallucinations. Just as they're about to leave though, a man pulls up and he's amazed that Maru is able to kill the man-eater. He asks Maru to help him as he needs him to kill somebody else with his powers. Maru and Kiriko then ask, just who are you? Turns out this is the leader of the Immortal Order, Dr. Usami. He's not a doctor that Kiriko has been looking for this whole entire time though. Turns out this Leave Human group, they're actually just a crazy ass cult. And Dr. Usami doesn't even know anything about the Immortal Order at all. It was like, oh, that's what they call me? Like, I have a gang? I ain't even know, twin. Like, hey, it is what it is though. The real truth is that Dr. Usami is a genius that helps build prosthetics for people with disabilities. He takes Maru and Kiriko to a ward and both of them see a person that is heavily injured on the verge of death. Maru asks, is this the person you want me to kill? Dr. Usami obviously replies yes. Maru then asks, why don't you just pull off the plugs of the life supports? Usami then explains that if he does so, she'll turn to a man-eater, and either him or her wants that to be her fate. This is a huge bombshell because it actually turns out that man-eaters did used to be people. So maybe that old lady that was feeding people to the man-eater that she thought was her son, she might be onto something. It might not have been her son, but she was onto something. But this is a major reveal. Like, this is like a huge chunk of the puzzle that fits in, and we're like slowly, surely getting information. Like, we're getting there. Maru tests his powers on the patient to confirm if he can kill her, and yeah, he can kill her. Just before he decides to do so though, the patient asks if she could see the sky one more time, as that's her final request before she passes away. After this happens, Maru uses his powers to kill her. The whole scene is extremely touching and emotional, as her last words to Dr. Usami was thanking him for everything and telling him that she loves him. These two have been through thick and thin, and Usami just breaks down in tears because he realizes everything is finally over. And he has to come to the realization that he's lost the love of his life. Dr. Usami thanks Maru and Kiriko and he decides he's going to bury the patient. Usami mentions that he never really was a doctor. He's just someone that actually just built a prosthetic for someone and wore it around that he does that. And he just kind of continued. And the only reason why he continued is because it made her happy. It made that patient happy. Whenever he built things, she was used to be happy. And it was like, you know what? I'll continue this because it makes you happy. He never actually wanted to be a doctor in the first place. And now that she's dead, he says, yeah, he's just going to stop. He has no motivation or will to, continue building prosthetics and helping people out. Dr. Usami ends up leaving. We get to see a final moment with him. He looks at a button he has and he reminisces about the life he lived. He kisses the patient one last time and he shoots himself. Most likely, he refused to continue living on without the love of his life. The sound of the bullet causes Maru and Kiriko to rush in, and they realize Dr. Usami killed himself. This kind of causes a visceral reaction for them, especially Maru, because Maru just believes that he isn't really helping anybody, he's just been killing people. But Kiriko tries to console him that you're killing man-eaters, even though you are killing people, and man-eaters are people. You're stopping the man-eaters from killing other people, and just kind of like, it is what it is. He didn't kill Dr. Usami, he made his own choice. Maru and Kiriko see the button in Dr. Osami's hand. They look at it and it has the same logo as Kiriko's gun. And just like that, everything just kind of connects. And let me explain what I mean. This story, there are two timelines. There's one in the past and there's one in the current day. The one in the current day is the one with Maru and Kiriko. The one in the past is with Tokyo and the other kids. And you're probably wondering, what do I mean by this? Well, the button literally explains everything. Because that button is the same button that Shiro had. And that basically means that Shiro and Dr. Usami are actually the same person. And there are obviously two things that point out to this. The first is that both of them are the only ones in the series that have been shown to be extremely proficient with machines. In heaven, we saw Shiro always fiddling with machines and creating all sorts of stuff. And Dr. Osami obviously was creating all sorts of advanced prosthetics for people. So both of them are well versed with machines. And like I said, Dr. Osami actually has the same button Shiro had. And if you just look at it, it's the button Mimihime gave to Shiro when they escaped from heaven. And if you didn't realize it yet, that patient that Dr. Osami had, that's Mimihime. Which kind of inevitably leads to a chilling conclusion, because Mimihime was actually one of the cooler kids with Tokyo. And I'm like, wow, we just saw Mimihime and she died. We didn't even realize until like after. Damn, like that's really sad. And with that, we come to the biggest conclusion. All the kids we actually saw in heaven are the man-eaters we've seen in the series. From the bird one, all up onto the one in the basement. In fact, the one in the basement actually has the same abilities as one of the kids in heaven. There's a kid in heaven that had glasses. She always used to wear that glasses because if someone looked at her, she'd make that person leave their worst fears and nightmares. And that's kind of the same thing that happened to Kiriko when she looked and touched that man-eater. She like lived her worst nightmares and fears. It's the same person. That kid probably just turned into a man-eater. All the man-eaters we've seen in the series, they're the kids from heaven. And obviously, Dr. Osami stating that man-eaters used to be people kind of just confirms this. It makes sense. Like, the kids from heaven are genetically modified. We saw the babies. They ain't look anything like humans. If anything, they kind of look like man-eaters. They look like monsters. I'm not even mentioning other things like Maru's blaster being shown with Shino, or Mina telling the kids to reach the outside and complete their fate as Hiruko. And if you remember, Maru calls man-eaters Hiruko. So yeah, just wow, a shocking, crazy reveal. It's an insane plot twist that's like well planned out. And the crazy thing is that narrative-wise, this isn't the only thing that makes Heavenly Delusion such an amazing show. I left out a whole bunch of stuff because I don't want this video to be super long. If you obviously stuck this long to the video, I recommend you check out Heavenly Delusion and watch it. Narrative wise, it's an amazing show and it's definitely worth it. And while you're still here, check out this video. Peace.